What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Research Tuesday, where we're diving into the X's and O's and the real, science behind it. And we've got Drake and Trent from Hawkin Dynamics, and they were at the NFL. I almost just said the word combine. It is not a combine anymore, everybody. You should start calling it the National Invitational Camp. But enough of me talking. These guys were actually there, and I wanted to get them on to give you a little bit of an insight of what they learned. So, Drake and Trent, thank you for being on, fellas.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
What would you say was it like an off factor, first of all? Because for me, I'd be nerded out and I'd be loving it. I know y'all were still at work, but like, what is the atmosphere like when you're there in Indianapolis at the National Invitational Camp?
It's it was a cool experience. You show up there, very professional experience. Everybody there is badges and ready to go. So you walk in, we weren't expecting to be treated as well as we did. Show up, set up on the first day, and really, we're right down there on the field with the vertical jump, with the broad jump, not pushed back in some corner. We're front and center, ready to go. So they treated us really well. It was a great experience to be there.
Yeah, I think the first year was actually last year, so this was our second time doing it. The first year for me, I don't know about you, Trent, but there was a lot more nerves the first year because no force play testing it's been part of the NIC/NFL Combine for a while. Like Sparta Science had been doing it, closed doors. Like it wasn't a public facing thing, and a lot of the teams really didn't get the information. Like from a strength and conditioning sports science perspective, I think it was kind of kept as like part of what they were doing in medical. So we were actually the first ones to actually do it on the field right next to the Vertec. We're kind of like positioned between the Vertec and the broad jump. So we were the first ones to do it last year. This year was the second year. So for me, like I felt good this year. Like it was cool. It was cool. Like you could kind of sit back, relax. It's going to work. But the first year, it was like we knew it was going to work because like that's what we do at Hawkin, right? It's like our stuff works every time. It's easy to use, etc. But even, for someone that's been doing that and seen it work for like 6 years, you still get put in that position. You're like, damn, is it going to work? Yeah. And you just have to trust that like our team has built, good product, good software. We've accounted for all the external stuff that could go wrong in that arena, like with all the TV crew, media, etc. But yeah, everything went flawless the first year and the second year. But I just felt better the second year,
Yeah, second year the nerves were not nearly as high as the first year. First year when we walked in, we had no idea what to expect.
I'm going to speak for everybody else, and like I'd be nervous as heck. Like you again, just like anything, it's the first time you take a job, right? You're like, oh, I want to make sure I do a good job. I on the interview prep, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and now it's time to deliver, and because you care, So I speak for everybody else. Like, man, I'd be feeling the exact same way.
Yeah. Like honestly, I almost felt like I should have like cared a little more this year. Like not caring, but it was just like it felt easy,
Yeah, because you kind of knew what to expect. Now, anybody seeing it, they saw the jumps and like they got to see it, right? Are you guys allowed to say what you were collecting, or is that privy data that you're not allowed to talk about?
Yeah. So Trent's actually the one that collects all the tests on the field. So like I'm sitting back behind a table and we have like the cloud open and something we do is we take subjective notes as well as the objective. So we kind of pair those two together and that's what the teams and the organization gets. But Trent, he's actually the one getting face-to-face contact with all the guys, like saying hello. Trent, you can kind of go through the workflow of like what you say to them.
Yeah. So it's really, they come from us right from the Vertex. So last year, it was kind of a scramble because nobody knew that the force plates were there, first year. This year, they actually gave us some signage, told people where to go. We had everybody helping us out that was there. So the athletes would go to the Vertec, do their thing, complete all their tests, and they would come over to us. Essentially, we would ask them if they used force plates before. If they had, step on the plates, you're good to go. If they hadn't, we perform like a quick demo for them on the plates just so that they know, how it all works. But a good majority of all the athletes had used force plates, which was great. So once they step up on the plates, we run 2 counter movement jumps, send them on their way after that, and they go do broad jump and then on to the warm up for the 40.
Now, anybody hearing that, they're going to say, "Did you let them use their arms? Did you not let them use their arms?" I forget from the image. So, what did you guys?
Yeah, so we did hands on hips the entire
Hands
time.
on hips. Okay.
Yeah, so kind of elaborate on that since this is the Research Tuesday segment, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, part of having a spotter behind, which was like my role was kind of spotting on the backside and then also like recording subjective stuff, making sure the data flows into the cloud so we can get the reports with our team in the UK, which kind of happens after. Like that's what we've been doing the last 2 weeks really is actually presenting all this information back to the teams. But we have two spotters, so one behind and then one on the side too. So side spotter is looking for hands coming off of hips, and back spotter is really looking to make sure that they land on the plates because some guys can jump and really shift in the air. Like half the foot can land on the back of the plate. Like some things can happen, and it's good to note those down and give that insight to the teams as well. So we have two spotters to make sure like nothing goes unchecked. If someone's hands come off while they're jumping, we flag the test. We don't save that test, so it never makes it through. And then we ask them to do it again. But if hands come off in the air, like when they're already in motion, so like they do perform the whole loading portion of the jump, push off, they get in the air, hands stay on hips, and then they come off in air, and then they land and kind of accept it with their arms. Well, that test comes through; it goes through in the system. We just notate and say, "Hey, hands came off in air. This could influence their landing, right? Because they accept that landing more with their hands at that point in time." So yeah, we leave nothing left unchecked. Like we send like diagrams of how everything is laid out. Like we will, so like first year we timed how long it took to go from vertec to force plate.
Hmm.
We make sure guys have had experience. If they don't, we make sure they know exactly what they're doing. Yeah, just nothing goes unchecked.
Nerding out on this too in terms of methodology. What was the standard? Like, was there a standardized amount of time in between repetitions?
Yeah, so we went around, we played around with that and whether or not we were going to do it or not. But honestly, like it's their discretion, right? So Trent would ask them if they're ready. Um, if they say they're ready, we feel like they're rested. If we ask them they're ready and they step back from the plate, they move around, shake their legs out, like they're not ready and they need some more time. So we left it up to them instead of like saying every person is going to have 15 seconds between each trial because like I mean they like Trent works out, I work out, you work out. Like think about you don't sit and you time yourself on bench press between all your reps. You're like, oh, it's been 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and now I'm ready to go. Like you're an athlete, you've been doing this a long time. You can figure it out. You can feel when you're ready to go again. So we leave it at their discretion.
And anybody that's listening or watching this, I feel like you can write that in research studies because there are examples that I've read in research where they're jumping every 30 seconds or they have longer time. So as long as you put it in there like, hey, it was the same reason that a lot of the jumping, and I'm assuming y'all didn't have like a goniometer, they say self-selected depth. All right, self-selected depth, self-selected readiness on their next attempt. And then you could obviously put a disclaimer in there, but if you're going to be the first to be doing it, anybody out there that's listening, if you're going to start writing some research, there's a simple way to put that in your methodology to still make it repeatable, because that's what people on your IRB are going to want to see is like, what's the repeatability of it?
Yeah, that was the tricky thing as well with getting guys over and letting them have as much time as they needed to feel ready was they came right from Vertec. So I had one guy
Yeah, they
that
were
came over,
warm.
he was gassed ready to go because he had done 4 failed attempts on Vertex, so he jumped 6 times over there. Some of the guys only jumped twice, ready to go. So with him having 6 attempts over, I saw when he got over to me that he was a little bit tired. I was like, hey man, take your time. Whenever you're ready, we'll be ready. But I don't want you on here gassed. I want you to be able to give it your all. Produce the best metrics possible for yourself.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can like read I can see the research paper like in my head right now. What were you gonna say, Jake?
So like we legitimately do like a whole research paper after. Like it's not like a published thing that anybody could access, but for the teams, we basically put together a report that is a research paper. Like I just pulled this up as we were talking. Like there's 40 pages here that we sent in this report.
To one
So it's
team?
like yeah, no, for like everyone that tested.
Okay.
And there's literally like a method section, the considerations, all the subjective notes. Like it talks about data quality when we process the data from like our sports science, data science, and how that happened, how the metrics were selected, etc. Like it's a whole. It's probably more than any research paper would be. but that's just the level of detail that we go into. And I wanted to know also that I think this is cool because we do ask everybody if they've used force plates before, right? Because we want to make sure they have experience. 89.66% had experience on force plates.
Quick break from the show to remind you to hit that like and subscribe button so that way you get notifications of when more content like this gets released. So click that like and subscribe button. And with that, let's get back to the show.
So, 90%. This just shows like how well adopted these are becoming in college settings, and really like high school. Like a lot of these kids probably have experience at high school or whatever performance center they were training at between high school and college and in the summers. But it just goes to show like, hey, this technology is pretty prevalent. And I think the 10% that didn't have experience, like it was the smaller schools tended to be.
That was going to be my question. Like, hey, did they just not, and if you're listening and you're a coach out there, I wrote an article for you on how you can get Hawkin Dynamic and it doesn't come out of your budget. So if you're listening to this and you're like, hey, I want to get it, I've literally given you the way that you can do it and it not cost your department any money. So that way your athletes are not in the 10%.
Correct.
The other thing that I wrote down when you were talking about that is, should then us coaches be having a spotter too? Because that's on me. I didn't know about that before. Should we, to have really good clean, should we have two? What if you only have one? What's the recommendation on it? Much like when you're back spotting, if you've only got one, you go to the back. If you've got two, you go to the side. And three, like what's the kind of the standard protocol for a spotter utilizing the plates?
Yeah, so I wouldn't recommend that like in an everyday testing environment. Now, if we kind of separate like counter movement jump testing into three different categories. So like you're monitoring, like you're going to monitor an athlete, you're going to test to benchmark or screen an athlete, or you're going to test like an athlete that's returning to play. Those are kind of like the three main use cases, right?
Yep.
So for benchmarking or screening, which is what this collection was, like you really want to make sure the athletes are feeling their best and tests are collected perfectly during that point in time. Whereas like your monitoring data, you still want it to be collected, as perfect as you possibly can, but you're going to capture it, maybe you're going to capture that every single day of the week, and you're going to be okay with like it not being like 7, 10, whatever, 10% not perfect. You're going to accept a little bit of that. So for this case, like in a benchmarking or screening, I do suggest having a spotter, like someone watching hands. But if you're testing with more frequency, which we only get one day, one time to capture these attempts, we want to be perfect. But for monitoring, you could be, quote unquote, less perfect, but still attempt to be as perfect as you can in those situations.
Hearing you guys talk about that, any of our listeners out there, I guess the thing to think about would be like a powerlifting meet, right? Like you have judges on the day of meet day, but when you're training, you don't have that, right? So it's not that's a good answer that I had not thought about. What was one of the other takeaways that you guys had from being at the event? I almost said combine, and I'm trying to train myself out of it. What would be some of the things that you all noticed in terms of everything that went on, from running the tests and what the athletes are going through and the coaches and just the whole day of it? What would be your piece of advice out there for coaches to then tell their athletes, whether they're their college coach or their personal strength and conditioning coach in the private sector? Like what's some good practical advice?
I think I'll let Trent take this one, but I think so. It is called the combine, like from the media perspective, right?
Okay.
But then for like what we do, it's NIC, which is National Invitational Camp. They're the ones that actually run it for the combine.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
So we could kind of call it either or, right? But I think from like we had to understand that too. Year one is like there is a difference, but the combine is the media thing.
The combine's the media there, and then there's a group of people, the NIC, that's facilitating all of the data, whatnot of the combine.
Yeah, like the guy that we work, his name is Jeff Foster. Throw it out. I don't know if he'll be listening to this, but he does a really good job. He's been doing it for a long time, of orchestrating like all the on-field testing, logistics, getting the scouts hired from each team. I don't know if they're hired or they volunteer, but not each team, but there are a lot of representation from the teams of scouts that actually run the on-field testing. So there'll be guys there from, the Bears that are like holding the guy's arm, and then a guy from the Patriots that's like measuring the reach, and then a guy from the Falcons that just is like orchestrating everybody, etc. On field actually running the test. So And then there is a group of performance minded people that are with teams. It's like almost a committee. And that committee like kind of tries to push things forward and make the NIC testing better at the combine. So there's a lot of moving parts to make it all happen, and we're just like a small piece of that. But yeah,
Yeah, but
Trent.
you guys got to be a part of it.
Right.
What'd
Yeah,
you see there, Trent?
Yeah, I mean, it was the buy-in was great from all the athletes. And the adoptability of the athletes to come in and know why they're testing was a big reason. So a lot of the athletes after they jumped would ask us like, "Hey, our team's getting these reports. What are we testing for?" And it was good just to educate them. But you definitely saw the athlete buy-in on that side of they knew it was important for them to test. And so a lot of them were continuing to do so. And we had a ton of outreach from coaches as well that are interested in learning more about the data as people are testing because they can see us on the field right after the Vertec. We're newer, like we said, on the scene to be on the field. So with a lot more eyes on us, you get a lot more questions on the back end when it comes to coaches and players wanting to know about different reporting, what we're reporting, and as well as just learning more about the whole process and why it's all important.
I got a question for you guys that's hypothetical, and maybe you guys either A, don't know the answer, or B, aren't allowed to answer it, but do you see any future of them utilizing a GPS company too when running the 40-yard dash and collecting that simultaneously? And if you're like, hey, it's already happening, or I plead the fifth, go ahead and say
it. It'd be cool, right? Like I think all the strength coach in us wants to say, yeah, that's what they should be doing.
Yeah, I just want to do it because, like you said, 90% of the kids are jumping on force plates, and they should be jumping on Hawkins if you're listening to this. But if you're doing something that they're used to doing on a force plate they're used to doing, and you can collect data on an accelerometer indoors or clear sky, which what they're used to, like now it can just very simply help you compare apples to apples. Is where I was going with that question.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have like the Amazon Statcast or whatever, or Next Gen Stats. So like, I
That's
think
probably why they
they do
won't.
get
Yeah.
miles per hour there. Um, and like, I don't know this for a fact. So this isn't an absolute, right? But like, all the players were wearing something under their shirt. Like they all had a wearable on. Um, I was like, we were like looking, trying to see what that wearable was, but it wasn't like anything common that I'd seen before. So they're measuring something. I don't know if that was on like the public broadcast because honestly, I didn't ever see the public broadcast, but um, it might already be being collected. It might just not be presented as we're used to seeing it as strength conditioning coaches and sports scientists.
Do you guys think that there's ever any trend of them running on force plates like they have in that? I think it's over in Japan where they have it in the track. Like, is that ever going to come potentially or no? Again, hypothetically, I know you guys don't know. I'm just talking. Like after being there, like, do you could it happen? Do you think it could or no? I don't know.
I think there's better technology that we could use for that than spending. I mean, again, it's the NFL, right? So like they have a lot of money if they want to find, if they know where to. They don't like to spend money unless they really want to spend money, and then they'll spend all the money in the world. So I think if someone within that organization really wanted to run a force place, they would make it happen. Do I think that would be overkill? Yeah, probably. There's other pieces of technology that they could use in that situation that would be close, provide similar information. Um, Now, if someone wants to get 100 force plates from us, yeah, sure. Like by all means, we'll sell you 40 yards of force plates. But
You could connect them together and run on them.
if the NFL came to us and said that that's what they wanted, we could do it. We have the team here to do that without question. Like our team here at Hawkin, like we have a whole team of Hawkin that's not like public facing that doesn't talk to any of our customers, users, come on these podcasts. I guess it might be Trent's first podcast,
It is.
but
Yeah.
we have a really smart team here. They can make a lot of stuff happen if there's a reason to make it happen.
And the customer success team, like I had that happen firsthand. Like anybody out there, if you ever need help, it's super easy and super quick to get your questions answered. Any other takeaway that you guys had from the combine, like things that you want to talk about, things that were kind of impressive, or just again takeaways from the event?
It's just impressive how high level athlete these guys are. All position types. It's impressive to see them all move on the plates. I mean, Drake and I make eyes at each other as we're testing, just to be like, wow, these guys are impressive, all the way from the D linemen, offensive linemen, all the way to the defensive backs, and the offensive skill players. They all move in different ways, but it's so efficient to watch them move on the force plates and throughout the entire combine. That it's really cool to see.
With that being said, don't say a name, but like what position group was somewhere you were like, holy cow, they had like the most number of people that you guys were both just like, oh my goodness.
Tends to be the defensive backs.
Yeah, I think for me, I would say like last year was there was probably a more concentrated number of like skill position athletes, of like guys that jump, and then you're like holy crap, like you just see it before the jump even comes through, right? Because like yeah, these people have jumped for a lot of people, but like this is a point in time where like they're completely warmed up, they have peaked at this moment, and there was a lot on the line of like getting a big contract, getting paid, like literally solving all of their problems, getting taken care of. So it's like guys are giving, that is the best you're ever going to get, like up to this point in time. So it's like last year there was a jump, there was two jumps really, one by a DN that was really an outside linebacker, and the second one by a defensive back. They were the highest I've ever seen on force plates, on our plates with hands on hips. But before the test even got saved, like it happened, and we were like, oh, yeah. And then it saves, right? And then the data just backs what you see. You're like, yeah, that was, like that was 29 inches for a reason with hands on hips, and that's the highest I've seen. Now I had a customer after I said this, a couple of times publicly, like they texted me and said they had a baseball player, Division One player, jump like 29.3 with hands on hips. So that might be the highest I've seen, but unofficial, right? Like we can't say, yeah, that was a perfectly collected test. But some guys are really impressive. And I think this year, for me at least, like the linemen were the most impressive. Like the way that they were jumping and moving their body. Like we had someone at like 10,000 watts for like peak propulsor power, which that is a lot. It's an output metric. It tells you like what they're capable of. Does like it's a limited amount of like what value our plates can provide, but it does say like, hey, this guy's got that. Like, figure out if the rest is good, but this is what he can do. So that was cool to see.
For you coming from the basketball world and then seeing all these football players jump, like at first was it like, come on now, y'all got to actually be able to jump higher? Like, what was that transition like in your opinion?
Yeah, I think a common misconception is that basketball players, like especially Division One NBA, are like really good athletes. I think people that aren't in basketball and people, well, I say athletes, but I mean I really mean jumper. I should have said jumper when I said that. But like a lot of the researchers that I speak to overseas that aren't as familiar with basketball players, or even like people that aren't in the basketball space, they're like, oh, your basketball players are going to jump your highest out of all your athletes. It's really not the case at all. Like I think like the average, it pretty much seems to be the average for Division One basketball for a jump height with hands on hips. It's like 42 centimeters. So we're talking in inches. I can't convert that on public math right now, but it's not 29 inches. I know that, right?
No.
The football defensive backs, wide receivers jump way higher than the basketball players do in Division One basketball and even professional basketball. Now, there are some basketball players that are probably better athletes than a lot of those guys, like especially like your guards, small forwards, change direction, but they don't always jump the highest out of all the populations we work with. So it is a misconception, I think, in this space as a whole.
You're actually right because as I said that and then you reframed it for me, like I was looking back watching. So anybody listening right now, it's the Tuesday, or right now we're recording on Monday after NCAA selection Sunday, and I was watching that guy from Purdue. Like he barely jumps, but he's 7'6", so it's like, yeah, of course he can dunk, but it's like it's wingspan and how tall you are. So not everybody's Vince Carter, doing the windmill dunks like back in the day.
Yeah,
And it was 16.3 inches. I did the math.
16.3. So that's a long way off from 29.
Yeah, if there's anything else that you guys want to talk about with the event, but otherwise, we'll let you guys go about the rest of your day. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
I wanted to get Trent on here because he's the king at throwing dabs. Like every single guy that steps up to the plate, gets the most perfect dab of
Let's
all
go.
people from Trent. Like you gotta ask Trent like how he perfects the dab. I
How
think
did you do that?
Well,
What was the key?
our Asia Pacific director, James Hanish, and I, we had a couple practice rounds before every group came through to make sure they were clean and ready to go. Yeah, you gotta be ready. These
Now,
guys
was it pre-jump or post-jump, or was it both?
pre-jump
Pre-jump?
at the greeting when I'm asking them all
Hey,
their
like, hey man, good job. Like,
exactly.
and then they if they did well, you gave them one afterwards too, right?
Right, exactly. Little
double
fist bump
dab.
after, yeah. Whatever.
So that actually built, like, I was gonna ask this, but I was gonna be like, hey Trent, you gonna start wanting to do like more podcasts now and like be public facing out there, like, hey, send me around the country, like I'm the combine guy, right? Like,
Put him on tour, yeah.
Yeah.
No, in all seriousness, like that is a really important job because
oh yeah, I agree. Yeah,
like he's the dab king, right? But like his job is extremely important because guys are walking up to us and we have to get their trust within 10 seconds, you know? It's like these guys are not like Trent and I sitting here, right? Like they're a lot different. Like, and we have to get them to get our trust and like give us effort within 10 seconds.
yeah.
Like that might be the hardest part of the whole thing is like, how do we create this comfortable atmosphere that you can trust us because this is data. It's not comfortable. Maybe you've never used plates. Maybe you don't know where this data is going.
Yep.
But how can you feel comfortable and give us max effort in 10 seconds? Like it's an important job. And the dab kind of solidifies that, right? Because it's like, hey, we locked in. We had a really good handshake here. You're my guy, like locked in with me, watch this tablet, give me effort, and then that's all you need to do. So
Yeah,
That
it was good because a couple of the guys, they're there to make their money at the end of the day. Like they're
correct.
on big contracts, but a couple guys, you ask them a couple of questions, we got a couple of laughs out of guys, and I think it just calmed them down to be like, you know what, take in the moment. You're here at the NFL Combine, and I see, this is your moment to shine, but take it all in and don't have to be serious. 24/7 here. It's we're here to help perform as best as you can, but we're cheering you on along the way.
I'm sure they probably really did enjoy that though. Like the fact of like, okay, I can like exhale because from what I heard, like people are in meetings until like 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. So it's like it's a stressful situation. That's kind of what I was, seeing. Could you guys like cut the tension in the air with a knife of like how serious it was? Because like you said, there's so much on the line.
Yeah, you definitely could. And we're just trying to get those guys to take a breath, like we said, because it is a stressful situation for all of them, and all the other tests that they run through, they have somebody on them hounding them about what they're going to do next, make sure they do all the right things, say the right things, and I was just trying to be there to be
Like, hey
a
man,
guy
let's
they
just
can
dap it up.
relate
Like,
with.
you don't even
Exactly.
have to jump. Let's just
Make
dap
it
it up.
easy.
Like,
Right. Make it easy. Dap it up. Take your time. Perform well, and then go get paid afterwards.
I mean, that sounds like a perfect place to wrap it up. Thank you, Drake. Thank you, Trent, for coming on and sharing with us about the combine. And everybody else, have a great rest of your day.
thanks for having us.
See you guys.
Congratulations on making it to the end of the video. Why don't you celebrate by watching more videos just like it? You can also help us on our quest to placate the algorithm gods by liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. Thank you.